Hey there, and welcome back to another video. Today I will be going through the body recomposition changes that did occur over the past almost 2 years for me via the DEXA scan. And I won't go into too much detail regarding what a DEXA actually is, as I did cover that in a previous video, but ultimately it is an X-ray impedance scan that does measure body mass indexes such as fat mass and then also lean tissue mass. So I just wanted to go through a few things just to give you some background. The first DEXA that was actually done in March of 2019 was right before or right as I started my show prep for my first show, which I actually did compete in the teen bodybuilding division, then also open men's, and it was a WNBF pro qualifying show. And ultimately, after that, I did go back to normal training, but as you guys know, 2020 probably wasn't the best year for many people's body recomposition, as a lot of gyms did get closed and stuff, but I am happy to say that I did make a fair amount of progress over that time, and ultimately in December of 2020 I do have a much better physique than I did have in March of 2019, and I will throw some pictures up on screen for you now to give you a better comparison of actually my physiques and how it has changed, and then I will catch up with you to go through the results of each DEXA. Alrighty, so hopefully those pictures were good enough and did suffice to actually see some of the body composition changes that were made. Obviously, bathroom mirror selfies are not the greatest of quality, so I do apologize for those from March of 2019. But ultimately, I will share these DEXA results with you guys now, and I will post the pictures on screen of the actual DEXA results, and then I will put a picture after that we will go through in more detail, because ultimately DEXA scans have a ton of different categories and measurements that they do, and it can be a very overwhelming process to go through and actually comprehend all of those different categories. So I did put it all into an Excel and summarized it for you, and it'll be a lot easier for you guys to comprehend and also for me to go through and explain to you as an audience. Alrighty, so hopefully the data on screen right now is a bit easier to comprehend and go through than the actual DEXA results that I just shared with you. I'm going to go through each of these categories and just kind of break them down a bit, but ultimately I know you guys can read, so I'm not going to go through every category step by step or number by number, but without further ado, let's hop into it. So ultimately, my height didn't really change at the age of 19, I guess 20 now. I wouldn't expect my growth plates to be open very wide, and I don't expect to see any major growth for the rest of my life. And then ultimately, my weight did go up by 9.1 pounds from that 205 to 214 range. And the changes in my lean and fat mass were ultimately 10 pounds of lean mass was put on. And then I did lose 0.9 pounds of fat mass. So that's a really good change in terms of body composition, as ultimately most people are looking to put on lean mass and lose fat mass at the same time. And moving on to some of the indexes that I found useful, and then from my outside research found some information on, was ultimately the lean mass index and then fat mass index, which the formula for those indexes is lean mass in kilograms over your meters squared in height, or divided by your meters squared in height. And then ultimately fat mass is the same, just with fat mass in kilos over that meter in height squared. And with those results, I actually did add a 1.3 to my lean mass index, which ultimately came out to 25.2 then. And in one of the videos in my outside research, I believe it was a Matt Does Fitness video, which I will link down below if I remember to, the doctor considered 25 to be a natural limit. But obviously, as a natural bodybuilder, I'm above that number, so that wouldn't make total sense. But ultimately, that comes down to that fat mass index, which mine went from 4.14 down to 4.24. And when he was talking about that lean mass index being over 25 as a natural limit, he was talking about when a bodybuilder is stage lean with their fat mass being 3.6 or lower. And ultimately, as my fat mass index would come down from that 4.24 number, approaching that 3.6, you would expect my lean mass to also come down just a little bit, because unfortunately in life there's no perfect way to keep all of your lean mass while you are in a heavy deficit in calories, and also just training super hard to get as much fat off as possible. Obviously, there are certain situations where this does work, where people will have an excess of fat mass and then are ultimately able to put on lean mass and lose fat mass at the same time. But looking at a person that is getting stage lean, you would expect them to lose some of their lean mass as they do go deeper and deeper into prep. And then also my body fat percentage did go down 1.1% from 15% to 13.9. But ultimately, just remember that the DEXA is not perfect by any means, and I don't know if I did mention it, but I will go over it a little bit right now, and I did go over it more in depth in my previous video. Ultimately, no body composition test is going to be perfect, because all of them will have somewhat of an error, because you're not breaking down the body and weighing each individual part. So things like hydration and then also glycogen levels can have a big effect on your lean mass readings, and then also the body fat percentages. So you can expect an error of plus or minus 4% roughly from the outside research that I did do on the DEXA scans. But that pretty much does it for the actual results. Alrighty, so it is actually a few days after I first recorded this video, but when editing, I wasn't a huge fan of the intro, so I'm gonna give it one more shot. Ultimately, I did do very well with body recomposition over the past almost 2 years. Obviously, the environment around me definitely wasn't the best, and I think that's a big keynote that you can take. Ultimately in life, the environment's never going to be perfect around you for anything that you're trying to do or any goal that you're trying to achieve. So I think it's a big deal to just get after it no matter the circumstances around you, and really just focus on that goal and really set yourself to it if it is important to you, and ultimately make that a priority to get after it. And just in general, obviously with COVID, it was very hard to get gym access, and then also training at home, you might not have had access to great equipment or had a very wonky setup. And for me personally, that wasn't very motivating to go out to my gym to that wonky setup when I knew that I could be in an actual gym progressing a lot better, and also being on a very structured program, while at home it was just kind of doing what you could to stay where you were at, and also just try and progress as much as possible. And then also in 2019, before obviously COVID was a thing, I was going through that show prep right after I did have that DEXA done, which was not optimal for putting on lean mass by any means, where I was in a large calorie deficit and then also was doing a lot of cardio. So just in general, I wanted to make that a big point, that the environment around you is never going to be perfect, but regardless, you have to get after it and just be a doer in life. Otherwise, you'll never really achieve the goals or achieve what you want to in life. But with that, if you do have any questions, comments, concerns, definitely leave them down in the comments section below, and I will reply to each and every one. And then if you did go on to enjoy the video, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more content, and have a great day, and I will see you in the next one.